We now take a look at approaches for solving non-convex optimization problems using convex optimization algorithms. We begin by summarizing several approaches that we have already seen throughout the course. So first we recap the situation with convex optimization problems. When we encounter a convex optimization problem, the first thing to check is that if it is in the disciplined form, which means that it can be formulated as one of the following problems. So it can be either LP, QP, QCQP, SOCP, all of which are special cases of SDP, or a geometric program, or if it involves some standard functions of log and exponential. Right? So these are generally easily handled forms. So for all these problems, there are a number of software that are available such as CVX or YALMIP and so on. So this approach is the easiest because you just need to recognize if the problem is in the disciplined form and then you can just plug it in these software. It may, however, happen that the problem is not in any of these forms. For instance, if the problem involves a function of 1 over x or 1 over x square, then it is usually will not be recognized by these softwares as convex, but it could still be convex. So the problem is not expressible in this SDP or GP or log exponential forms. So in those cases, you still have to use the interior point method, but you will actually have to write down the implementation yourself and tune all the parameters. So this is a slightly harder version because you need to have a custom interior point method implementation. So writing an implementation for interior point method is for moderately sized problems is not too difficult. It takes a week or so approximately. Then we come to problems that are not in the standard form. So that are not in the standard convex form. First, you could try to see if they are missing something. So throughout the course, we have seen many examples of cases where the problem looked to be non-convex at first glance, but we could discover hidden convexity via introduction of new variables or elimination of variables or Schur's complement, for example. So the interesting example is therefore there was a non-convex QCQP in assignment number 5, problem 9. So that was a QCQP which was non-convex, but we were actually able to turn it into a GP because of its special structure. So this is always the first step. The first step should always be that you should try to see if there is a simple manipulation that will make the problem into the disciplined form or into the convex form, even though that the first glance it may appear to be non-convex. A more rare case occurs when the problem is actually non-convex, but strong duality holds. Remember we said that the convexity and Slater's conditions are sufficient conditions for strong duality, but we did not say anything about necessary conditions. It turns out that strong duality may at times hold for non-convex problems also. So what if we are able to prove for a problem that strong duality holds? So what then? What we can do in that case is that we can solve the dual, because remember that regardless of whether the primal problem is convex or not, the dual is always a convex optimization problem that can be solved. So we can solve the dual and recover the primal variables. An example of this is the QCQP with single quadratic constraint. So for this problem, it turns out that even when the objective function and the constraints are non-convex, strong duality holds. This is shown in actually appendix B of Boyd's book. And we already know that the dual of a QCQP is an SDP, which can be solved, say using CVX. Right? So this is one way you can recover the primal for a non-convex problem. But I must remark that this case occurs very rarely. Then we come to problems which are non-convex and strong duality also does not hold. For this, you should first check if the problem can be quasi-convex, or more generally, it can be parameterized using a single variable. So in those cases, you can perform bisection over that parameter and figure it out. For instance, if we have already seen that if we are minimizing a quasi-convex function, then through the use of epigraph trick, we can actually write it in the convex form provided we fix one of the variables. And then the problem is convex, we just need to do a line search over that variable or bisection over that variable, and ultimately such problems can be solved using a series of convex optimization problems. So these three methods that we have discussed so far are exact methods, since they yield the exact solution even though the problem is non-convex. Right? If exact methods fail, however, we may need to resort to inexact methods, where we may make a compromise and say that we don't really want the exact solution, but we are good with the approximate solution, provided that it can be found efficiently. There are several inexact methods. The first and most popular one, which we have already seen, is the relaxation, wherein we approximate the non-convex function with a convex one. And we have seen relaxation in context of L0 norm. So we relaxed L0 norm to L1 norm. Likewise, we have seen it in the context of matrix completion, where we relax the rank constraint to nuclear norm constraint. And then finally, we have seen it for some kinds of non-convex homogeneous quadratic problems, where the SDP relaxation worked. And then there are two more methods, inexact methods, that we will have a look at in the subsequent lectures, which are the block coordinate descent for block convex problems. So block convex problems have certain specific structure for which block coordinate descent methods can be used. And then we have the successive convex approximation method, or the related majorization minimization algorithm. So together these three are three of the most common methods, and they all rely on our ability to solve convex problems efficiently. And once we can solve those convex problems, they can be used to solve this special class of non-convex problems approximately but efficiently.